What's going on, y'all? My name is Christopher Life Willers, and this is the Stay Free Show. Every single Saturday, hopefully, barring any unforeseen circumstances, I will be live with a powerful, dynamic story brought to you by a guest because it's not just about me being able to tell my story on my platform, but being able to highlight all the amazing, powerful, impactful stories that I've got to catch glimpses of. Also on this platform, man, we're going to get into the topics that really matter to us. The platform is geared around incarceration, mental health, addiction. We're outreach heavy, we're conversation heavy, and we're going to give you transparent and true conversation. And we want y'all to ask questions in the midst of this chat as we get into this, man. My guest tonight is Amber Bowman. I've had the opportunity to actually do a workshop with her in Richmond. It was recovery based, and I was able to hear a part of her story then. And there's been a few more times where we've crossed paths. She's been consistent with the work that she does, and how she's out there just amplifying the message that second chances are worth it, man, for us to deserve it, man. And today we're going to be speaking about the prison conditions in the ladies' prisons because oftentimes the ladies don't get discussed enough. So without further ado, I hope I can do this right. I'm going to go ahead and bring my guest up here, Miss Amber Bowman. Oh, we got it.
Hey,
What's going on? What's going on, Amber? How you doing? Thank you for joining the Stay Free Show.
thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you too because I posted recently a snippet of a conversation we had, and first and foremost because we hear the conversations a lot for the type of work we do. We know about stereotypes, right? Me, I walk into a place dependent, they see the tattoos, I don't know what, but one of the comments they were like, she was locked up for real? What she. So thank you for breaking some stereotypes in your unique way, right? But you've got a story. And if you want to share a glimpse of your story, just introduce yourself. Definitely want to hand it over to you, Amber.
Yeah, so my name is Amber. I got sentenced to 16 years in prison on my first technical probation violation. So my guidelines were 3 to 6 months, and the judge gave me all 16 years of my backup time. I did 4 years, and I was very, very lucky and very blessed to get a conditional pardon from Governor Northam in January of 2022. And I was released and able to come home and start working as a peer recovery specialist. But I definitely had a hard time in prison because I didn't know if I was going to be able to get out. And that was a big loss that I had to go through in my life, getting a sentence like that. So, I went through a lot and I was able to heal from that experience and grow from it. And, now I have some tools that I can use to help the people that I work with.
Yeah, you're a certified peer specialist. You're working out in recovery, you're doing some things, helping people with mental health, holistic healing, all these things. We're going to talk about that. But I got a question because people are going to want to know what was the response mentally when you got all that time back, and how did you address that going forward?
I had a mental breakdown. I did. Like, I literally just had, I laid in my bunk many days, begging God to kill me because it was just hopeless, and luckily I was able to, move through that. And that was just, a part of the grieving process, but I was able to, get on the other side of it. But yeah, I mean, it completely blindsided me. I never thought that was going to happen. And, it definitely made me realize that the choices I was making, had very large consequences.
Yeah. I usually do this at the end, but I want to do this in the beginning because I know there's going to be some ladies that are watching this. That their demographic for my population, it varies, but we do got a lot of younger people. What is a message you've got for some younger ladies specifically right now, that may be struggling with addiction or may be, possibly about to get into some trouble?
It really made me realize that a lot of things in life are replaceable: cars, money, jobs, that sort of thing. But one thing that once it's gone forever is time. And you can't get time back. You can't get those experiences back with your family. And so it really made me realize that how valuable time is.
What is because I know when I got sentenced to my time, um, I did the same thing. I laid in my bed mentally. I couldn't, I didn't understand fully, right? Like I was a kid that got into a car, and a lot of people know my story. I was the driver, and I felt like I wasn't going to go to penitentiary for that long. Like if I did, and then reality hit, and I'm in the system, and I described it one time as system shock, right? What was your experience? Because you're talking about what you're going through mentally, and why you're going through that mentally, addressing the fact that you just got sentenced to all that time. Now you're transitioning from jail to prison, right? What's the difference between, for the ladies, because it's different for the fellas too, but is there differences between the jail and prison when you had to, go into that chapter of your journey?
The jail that I was at was a smaller jail, so they only had a couple pods for women. So basically, everybody was max if you're a woman for the most part. So we were locked down 22, 23 hours a day. If they didn't have staff, you didn't come out. And that was just kind of the reality of it. It was really just being stuck in your cell all the time. There really wasn't anything to do. So going to prison is better because there is more freedom. You're not locked down as much. And then, you have access to other things that you just don't have access to at the jail. So it's better, but some of the women's facilities are pretty bad too. So the one that I was at was probably one of the worst ones, I would say.
And I don't know if you want to say that's something, but when you say that, what are some of the examples of what's bad? And then if you can highlight some things that maybe the general public doesn't think about, because that's one of the things I do. Like we can think about the violence and different things that may be obvious, but what about the food conditions? What about, the water, etc.? But what are some things that the ladies go through?
Yeah. So the thing that kind of sucked with my situation was because my charges, I was a low level security. So I was level 1. But because of the amount of time I had, I was technically maximum security. So because I was level 1, they sent me to a work camp. But you can't go outside the gate unless you have under 8 years. So I'm going to a work camp that I have to serve 8 years before I can even go outside the gate. And those places are designed for people that have 2-3 years. They're on their way home. Like it's not really designed for people to do long term there. So I was going to work in the kitchen or in laundry for 8 years. They don't have classes and programs there because they're not really investing in the inmates because they're going home. So, at the bigger places, you might have cosmetology, HVAC. So those sort of things where you might be able to take something home with you. And these places are just solely, you go out, you work, you do your time, and you go home. And so, it's 60 people or more in one room, 3 toilets, 3 sinks. There's lines for everything. AC is always breaking in the summer. There's mold. There's leaks in the roof and down in the basement. The toilets from upstairs are leaking downstairs. So they just have buckets everywhere just for the water, just to catch the water. And I don't think people know that, DOC doesn't have a organization over them, auditing them. They do all their own financial audits, health inspections, everything. So when the people would come through and we'd be like, there's holes in the ceiling, it's leaking. But literally I've been there one time, the lady was like, it's not raining right now, and walked off.
Black mold everywhere.
There's paint over the mold when the people are coming. The showers were in the basement. So if you didn't have an officer down in the basement, you couldn't take showers. There was plenty of times that we couldn't take showers till after the 9 p.m. count because they're always so short-staffed. The warden that we had she was not a very nice person. She basically tried to just make us miserable just because she could. She would give us 1 roll of toilet paper a week. If you needed more toilet paper, you had to buy it off commissary. She would give you a set amount of feminine products. If you needed more than that, you had to buy it off commissary. She basically just took away any privilege, anything that she could just to make us.
I got a question about that. The hygiene, the feminine hygiene products. Obviously we're on Facebook. We don't want to get, but just that's something that has to be taken care of. So if somebody's indigent and they run out of hygiene products. You're telling me.
Well, at the work camp, see, nobody's indigent because you're supposed to have a job.
Okay.
So so they don't give out stuff for free like at some of the other institutions because they're basically counting on that everybody there is working. So what the older women that, didn't need them would often get them to, would help each other out. But I mean, people were using paper towels. Like, I mean, it was just so bad. Like her whole culture of the place was just to dehumanize people. And I understand we're locked up, we committed a crime, but like, you don't have to like make people beg for toilet paper. Like, I still honestly keep like a stash of toilet paper because it just like the PTSD from that.
Like, there's certain things like it seems so crazy to people around me, but because I was in that environment and I didn't have control, like toilet paper, it seems so. And I'm sitting here, I'm just thinking about this because there's a lot of similarities. I was on a level 1. I was told my whole bid I couldn't get to a level 1. I was high priority. I had a robbery charge, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden they send me to a level 1. And a couple of things were happening for me. One, I had did all my time on higher levels, right? So now I'm on this lower level where some of these people coming straight from the jail and their mentality is different than mine. And what I noticed was what you said. On level 2s, 3s, 4s, programs galore. Mm-hmm. I got, you can get into trades, X, Y, Z, like religious program, like everything you could want to probably get into in that environment. But as soon as you get to a level 1, which was weird to me, because these are the guys that are definitely going home, but it's like a holding pen. Mm-hmm. Like ours, what you just described, the shower was in the basement. The weight pit was in the basement. We didn't even go outside. Like 90% of the time we were supposed to go outside. We were restricted to these small, it was like 2 pods in a basement and a check. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was losing my mind because you're tight in there. Mm-hmm. There's one bathroom inside this thing. What do you do? It's Mac 3 foams. Mm-hmm. So you just triggered all my PTSD is what I wanted to tell you shortly, really. Yeah. Quick. But now I didn't know. So now I didn't know that the ladies' prisons were built like that at level 1. But the world needs to know where you would probably think reentry, support is. Oh no, they just want people to work, like Amber said.
And the culture is very different because when I get to the level 2, it's like the officers don't bother you really. They're in their little bubble on the hall. You don't really interact with them that much. They don't enforce, like, I don't know if people know, but DOC has like 100 million rules that they give you when you first get there. And a lot of them are just petty and stupid and they don't really enforce them because like if somebody's does 15, 20 years, like that's kind of their home. So like the officers aren't gonna like enforce things like having pictures out or having a cup on your locker, but they don't have anything else to do. There's only like 250, maybe 300 people there. They know that the inmates are getting ready to go home, so they're not going to do anything to jeopardize their time. So the officers are verbally abusing people, they're bullying people, when they're shaking you down, they're tearing up your whole bed area. And like I said, these people aren't doing anything wrong, so they're getting extra blankets, extra pairs of jeans, and then DOC, you can only have 1 cup and 1 bowl. So they're making you throw away your extra cup and throw away your extra bowl just for no reason other than that they can.
Yeah, I definitely got messed with more. And that was another thing. We're speaking from different perspectives, but similar perspectives. Level 4, they just don't want you to harm anybody else. They don't want you to jump on nobody. And then level 3, same thing. Level 2, they just want you to stay out of trouble again. Like, because there's 1,000 people, they don't want nothing to jump off. Level 1, you washcloth in the wrong place. You're losing 5 days of your freedom. Mm-hmm. There go. I watched consistent. I was the inmate advisor a lot of the camps I was on. I was joking because somebody in the comments said, "You remind me, you're probably like a head porter or inmate." Yes, I was an inmate advisor, IRG, all that, whatever, right? But I remember guys getting these charges for their toothbrush being out or their cup being next to their TV, and the penalty was 5 days of good time. Like, And people need to know this, man. Your loved ones are losing good time, freedom with you over a watch clock. We're not saying that we shouldn't. If we get in trouble, okay, fine, we're in there. But excessive, there's rules within the rules, and your good time can get impacted by this. So I'm glad you're speaking. I'm gonna be quiet. That's important.
Yeah, and just like the way they treated us in general, the women that were going out to work, they're going out and working in the warehouses for 8, however many hours a day. They're coming home and having to wait outside for like 2 hours in the rain or the snow because they don't have enough officers to strip search them. When they are coming in, some of the women would literally come back to the dorm crying because the officers are making fun of them while they're strip searching them and completely humiliating them. Like, I had women that would take the failure to work charge because they didn't want to go out there and have to be humiliated like that.
Male officers doing these searches?
No, females, but they're still making fun of their bodies.
Okay, yeah. For sure. And I'm the awkwardness for our end on the opposite. And I'm glad we're having dialogue about the differences in the system. They passed a law when I was in there where the female guards were able to everywhere. They couldn't strip us, but they can pat, and it was like the craziest. Because not for nothing, a lot of guys in that environment probably didn't have a problem with that, and that's fine. But there was some definite moments where people were out of line, and I don't care where you're at, what side of it, it's uncomfortable, man. Like when you're in that environment and it's your body and it's all that. So, yeah, I was curious about that. Is there anything? It seems like are there a lot of fights and stuff? Somebody asked that in my questions. Are there fights? Is there politics in the ladies' prisons? It seems, because what I'm hearing is, it seems like for real the majority of the problems come from the administration staff side versus on the guys. We got that, but we pick each other apart.
I think there are fights, but I think a lot of that comes down to 60 people being in a dorm and you can't get away from people and you have no privacy, and people just like, if you're having a bad day, you can't get away from anybody. Like, at least, when I got to VCCW, I could go in my cell and close the door. But, in the dorms, it's so loud in there, and, and it's just like, there's just no peace.
Were you one of the people that, because you just said when you went here, you were able to close your cell, right? Were you one of the people that was like, I prefer a cell over a dorm?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
What do you say to people that are like, why would you prefer to be locked into a smaller space versus access to more freedom? I mean, I already know, but from your own perspective.
Because you can't, like, if you're frustrated, you're angry, you're stressed out, like, you have nowhere to get away from everything. And like, say I called home and, maybe had an argument and I'm upset about it. I'm getting off there, everybody can see me, everybody's gonna be like, what's wrong with, you just can't get like any space to yourself. And, it's fine to be around people, but not everybody wants to be around people 24 hours a day. Some people need to have their own space as well.
Yeah, I need to this day, I need my own space. And I was one of those people too. Like, I remember when I got sent to a dorm, calling home, and I was like, yo, I'm about to get in trouble so I can get sent back up. And my people was like, to a lower level, what are you talking about? But mentally, I couldn't deal with that part right there where, like you said, I remember, like, unfortunately, I had a couple people, my grandmother passed, for instance. I'm on camp 17. A level 1, there's nowhere to go. Do you know where they told me to go call my family? The hole. They said, you can think about this. Never mind the fact that I'm one of the guys that they tried to put in pill call, right? You tell me go to the hole. No, that wasn't when my younger brother Tristan at this time had passed. They told me go to the hole, and I'm sitting in there, and I'm having crazy thoughts, right? Like there's no mental health support there. There was no chaplain on level 2. A chaplain will swing through or something. There was none of that. It was just that. And then I walked back. As soon as I was done with the calls, they were like, well, you can stay in the hole. which the hole is like an old school hole where I was at. It was like 2 cells behind the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like, it was the craziest thing. We could go back to the dorm. And I was like, well, I'm gonna go back to the dorm because I can watch my TV or whatever. As soon as I go back in the dorm, all the yo, what happened, bro? You good? And even if it was from good intentions, and we know a lot of it because they just something's going on. They see the COs and all that, like you said. And I had a moment, and I didn't have anywhere to go or escape, and I ended up having to go to the hole anyways. Well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I want to talk a little bit about COVID too, because I think you had gotten out right before COVID, right?
I did.
So the facility that I was at, the people were going out like into the community to work. They were working at like Atmore, which is DOC like headquarters. They were going there and doing jobs. So they're out in the community all day. So the facility I was at was like the first one to get COVID because they were going out, coming back, that sort of thing. And so like we got locked down in March of 2020. And we were still locked down on January of 22 when I left. And so we didn't leave the dorm for anything. You were lucky if you got an hour of rec. They brought all your trays to you. There's no school. There's no programs. There's nothing. They told us to social distance in the dorm by your bunkmate sleeps this way and then you sleep the other way. And that was their way of keeping us separate. But I actually got COVID, and there was about 10 of us that got COVID. And so they just like locked us down in the basement, and like this was like brand new COVID. So like they were scared to come around us. Obviously, I mean, I don't blame them. They're scared to bring it home to their families, but they were like treating us like, like I don't want to be near you, that sort of thing. Like there was several of us that like looking back on it now should have gone to the hospital, but they didn't want like the publicity about it. So they just were kind of like trying to like hush it. I have asthma, so like my oxygen kept dropping really low, and I had to keep getting like breathing treatments and stuff. And it was just like they just were like, we're just gonna lock y'all in this basement, and we're just not gonna deal with y'all, basically. And I really honestly thought I was going to die down there. Like I was faced with my own mortality because I was so sick for like a month. Like for all total, I was sick for like 3 months straight. But like the first month, I was sitting down there like, am I going to die in this basement, away from my family and everything, because I was so sick. And it was just, that was pretty scary, honestly.
What did they just have cots set up down there? And
they just moved some bunks down into the basement and just stuck us like in a back room. And, we're just like, all right, we'll just close this door.
March, it revved up. I went home January, but December, Nottoway Work Center, which was the last prison I touched before I went home, everybody started getting sick. And my crew, we was like the workout crew, all us healthy and all that, right? And we were falling out left and right. I didn't get sick, but like all my workout part, everybody I was cool with, big healthy guys, falling out.
That was me too.
And everybody coughing, and for anybody that doesn't know what she just spoke to, they quarantine. In her case, this is gonna sound so crazy. That's not lucky. That's not a good thing how they did it, right? But I'm gonna give you the other side of it, right? So where I was at, instead of separating those that were showing symptoms and they kept them in the pod, but they quarantined the pod. So the healthy and the sick, we just there. Mm-hmm. It don't matter if you got symptoms or not. You don't get moved to the basement. You thug it out. So I was in a situation where the man next to me is in fetal position with the blanket, coughing, trying to fight for a breath. And they rolling people in and out with the wheelchairs like it's okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you spoke on that, because I'm just envisioning they're already scared. Mm-hmm. You're prisoners at the time. So how much do I really care, like deep down inside, to risk myself to go home to take care of some like I already know. It was probably the coldest, insensitive. I already know. If you were lucky, maybe you had one that cared.
There were a couple officers that definitely really cared, but I think they were just scared. It was so early in the pandemic, people didn't know. They thought if they got COVID, they were going to die, and so they didn't want to bring it home to their family. Yeah. But what I think was the worst part is like Governor Northam put out, I don't know what it's called, but like he basically put out a memo to DOC that was like, anybody who has a year less, you can go ahead and release them, because like, why have people die in prison that are getting ready to go home, you know? And DOC was releasing people like a few days before their release date, a week before their release date. Like, what is wrong with them? Like, you're risking it. And people were dying in there. There were people at low-level work camps that died because of COVID.
And they didn't talk about it. There was a lot of things, like you said, it didn't get publicized. There was a lot of things going on. To anybody that survived COVID that wants to come up here and really speak to that, I would love to do an episode to really take people into that, because some of the videos I was seeing back then, I wasn't making content like that. But some of the videos I remember that the guys were sending home, like during the pandemic, it was terrifying, man, because you knew it was a slow suffering going on in there. Even if people survive, like you watch people fighting for breath, and then there was shortage of staff. Then they weren't getting their food on time. Then there was no common sense. There was a whole bunch of other stuff going on top of dealing with the sickness. I don't want to get too much in that, because it was a deep joint. Is there anything else? Fatima said, seems like the new Virginia model, which isn't offered in the female prisons right now, is doing collective punishment. These are supposed to be an earned incentive facility, yet they are nitpicking. Man, we got some people getting ready to talk about that too, because there's been some shifts in the system, but they're not across the board, at least out there in VA, man. Anything else you want to shine light on, let the world know? And this has been really impactful and informational for sure.
Well, I just think that it's, DOC really thinks that if they traumatize people enough that it'll want them to never want to come back to prison. And it just is like an excuse to treat people bad and verbally, abuse them. And, I understand that people did something wrong, but you don't have to treat them like animals, and you don't have to make them cry, and you don't have to do all these other things that are just creating lasting impacts on people.
Yeah. Amber, I appreciate you coming out. You fired up. You do a lot of great work. You talked about a lot of stuff that you've been through in the system. You've seen, you witnessed, and you're being a voice for like so many women that were behind bars or are right now. So thank you for that. Can you take a second and let the world know, because I find it really important to let people know that we can come home from prison, survive some things, and do some great things. So can you let the world know how you're kind of countering the trauma that a lot of people face from incarceration, addiction, etc.?
Yeah, so when I was in there, I just like read a whole bunch of books, and I did a whole lot of trauma healing, and I just learned some things that really, really helped me, like yoga and meditation and that sort of stuff. And I really wanted to become a peer recovery specialist. So when I got out, I got my peer recovery specialist certification and my yoga teacher training. And, because those things were so helpful to me that I still use them today, I have incorporated some of those things into the work that I do.
Yeah. I'm excited. Spoiler, you're going to see me and Amber collaborate and doing some great things, man. I want to thank everybody as we're nearing the end of this 30-minute conversation. Everybody that wanted to hop on tonight. We're going to continue the conversations. You can see Amber back up here, a few other places as well. Speaking about some more things for sure. But if you got comments, if you got questions, even after the fact, send them in. I doubt that she would mind, comment. We can chime back in or whatever. But these conversations are driven not just to support, but to educate, because we just want people to learn. So if you've got questions for me and Amber, please don't hesitate to message. Amber, you got a message on that note, a message to the people, just anything to your mind, or if you want to let people know how to connect with you or anything that you're doing, any of that, please.
Yeah, you can find me on social media. I'm on all social media. But, the one thing I really want to impress upon people is that, you might get all your backup time on your first violation. It might not be likely, but I am proof that you can get all your backup time. And the thing is once it happens, there's really not a whole lot you can do about it. And I've had people tell me that, she's the judge, she can do whatever she wants. So I do encourage you to do what the people tell you to do on probation.
I think I got a speeding ticket and I started freaking out. I don't want to even get near because you don't know. And thank you for bringing that note. The best thing to do is just stay out of people's way, man. That's it. Stay free, as I always say. But educate yourself to the system and know what's going on. Pay attention to the stories like Amber so you can know what the possibilities are and what you may face if you go down a certain path. Amber, as always, thank you for all the work that you do. I had just seen you at the Virginia Justice Conference. So thank you, for coming through there, supporting the workshop and everything else that you're already doing. If you need healing information, if you want to connect with Amber, she is a peer. We call them certified peer specialists in Georgia. They call them PRSs, peer recovery specialists. It's a little bit, it's all the same. Connect with her, connect with me. We're here to support y'all. And that's it, man. Thank y'all. We're going to be back up here next Saturday. And every single Saturday. And if you want to be a guest, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to amplify your story because your story matters, man. Until next time.